Hi. Hmm. Ah, yes.
Marjorie, you can stop grade then.
Hey, Miss McClellan.
Hey, how's it going?
Bad. Bad. Yes.
How come?
Because I got so much missing work. I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah. How's it coming?
Okay, but like it's just more work piling on top of
Yeah.
that.
Well, we're not gonna have an assignment in here today, so that might be a little bit of a relief. You have stuff from yesterday, but that's not due.
Stuff from last week.
Yeah.
I still gotta finish up my story. Still trying to work on that Corona playlist.
I'm trying to think. I don't have next week planned yet, but considering the fact that we're gonna start reading a book at the end of the week, we might start having a little bit less homework and stuff just because of reading. But what we're gonna read is a play, so
Yeah.
we do most of the reading in class. I'm gonna shut my door. So every time I lean back, I feel like I'm gonna die, and it's also so squeaky. Awful. Well, so I don't want to panic anyone, but progress reports are coming out October 12th.
Oh, that's just great.
I mean, it's not immediate, but it's coming up. That is.
It's 11 o'clock.
Thank you. Less than 2 weeks. So not just in my class, but in other classes, I feel like a lot of people have had kind of a rough start to the school year, which I get. But I've had a rough start to the school year too. I mean, just like getting used to everything and, trying to figure out all of this stuff. It's tough. But I think that it's been rough with some of you guys, not just you guys, but trying to get their work in. And a lot of people's grades have really suffered. So I want y'all to know that progress reports are coming up in like 2 weeks so that you have like a couple of weeks to try to get your grades up. And some of you have been working hard over the last few days in this class to try to get your grades up.
Can you help me at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, I have a meeting at the end of the day. Dude, I miss Google Classroom too, and I feel like every class somebody mentions this, and I'm like, why don't people listen to us, the teachers and students? Because nobody likes Canvas. It's hard to use. Google Classroom was so easy. I had a really hard time in my first class because we were doing a test, and I found out right beforehand that my test wouldn't upload onto this. So I just had to email it to everybody and they couldn't finish. So I feel like, I don't even know, it's a mess. It's a big mess.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with it, but.
Hey, Ms. McClellan.
Yeah.
I don't have my school computer. Can you change that file to something else because my computer don't have pages?
That file?
Yeah, the assignment for today. Can you change that out of pages to something else?
I can't, but if you open it, it should automatically go into Word if you don't have pages.
I don't know if I have Word.
Well, what kind of computer do you have?
It's a Dell Windows computer.
Yeah, if you try to open a Pages document, it should automatically go into Microsoft Word.
Oh, I must have took it off some time ago. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So like I said, we're not gonna have an assignment to do today, which might be a little bit of a relief for some of you. Just lots of discussion and predicting. Let me go ahead and take attendance though, before I forget. I think we're missing one or two. Let's see. Here comes Alexis. All right, we have Alyssa, we have Alexis, we have James, we have Jenny, we have LeBron, we have Kiki. Cade. We are still missing Zane. But we have Randall. Okay. Might have to email somebody and ask when Zane is coming back. Okay. So I mentioned later on this week we're going to start reading a play, which will be exciting, or at least I hope it will. People tend to like this play because, you know, it's a little bit of an anomaly to put it in colonial literature, because while it is set in colonial literature times, it was not written back then, which is like kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing, because yes, it doesn't technically qualify as colonial Puritan literature, but it's a lot easier to read than, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God or Anne Bradstreet's poetry, because it was written in the 50s. And it was written then kind of as an allegory. You guys know what an allegory is? Anyone know? You should know, most of you should know, because Ant Farm, which we read last year, was an allegory for the Russian Revolution. So you can kind of piece it together, what I mean by that. It's like an extended metaphor, basically. And there was a lot of stuff going on in the 50s that I'm not going to go into because it's not what we're studying. But it had to do with communism and people like thinking that people were communists, and they kept calling it like a witch hunt for communists. And so the guy who wrote this play, The Crucible, he wrote it as an allegory for the issues that were going on at the time, because he was like, oh, they're like witch hunting people like for being communists. And there was this actual witch hunt back in Puritan era America. So like, let me make this kind of parallel here. But it's also, it is a good reflection of how things actually were at the time in Puritan era America. And we talked a little bit about the Salem witch trials one day. And I don't really remember like why they came up, because I think it was a little bit before we started talking about like going into the Crucible. So I don't really remember like how it came up, but I remember we were talking about like what they were and why they started and stuff. And like some people have different theories about why they started. Like there's this whole thing about mass hysteria, which is a phenomenon that fascinates me. Mass hysteria, which is exactly what it sounds like if you know what hysteria is. It's like a group of people a mass of people all kind of believing the same fake thing. And it's kind of a crazy phenomenon, and there aren't that many of examples of it that I can think of, because it just doesn't happen all that often. It's hard to we were talking about it because of Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. Oh my gosh, I can't even see you raising your hand. But you can say something.
Okay, I had to do a 6-page paper on this last year for Miss Petty.
Yeah.
So the most likely answer for it is that there's a poisoning in rye. It's a type of, I think, fungus
Yeah.
that poisons rye, and then how they would test people to see if they're a witch is they would make you pee in a bread, and then they would make you like a dog eat the bread, and if they ate the bread and acted crazy, you were a witch. But they're gonna act crazy anyways because there's pee in bread,
Right.
and there was a rye fungus.
And also, like, if you have a dog or have ever been around dogs, sometimes dogs just start acting nuts for no reason. You're like, what is wrong with you? And like, dogs bark at nothing. And so how would you be able to tell anyway? Like, that's the worst system. It's a terrible system. There's systems like, go ahead.
Why they thought that would work? But I know other than that, a lot of like the testimonies were fake.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they would literally press you. They would put like a flat board on top of you, and then they would put like boulders on top of you.
Yeah.
And one dude got pressed to death over the span of 3 days.
Yes. I can't think of a worse way to go, honestly. That's terrible. Yes, that was Giles Corey, I think. There are like all these people who are like accused of being witches, which we think of it as being like young women, but it was not at all just young women. It was honestly more like young women doing the accusing than anything else. But like young women, young men, old men, they were all being accused of being witches. And like for no reason. Somebody would just either see them like reading a book that wasn't the Bible and be like, oh no, she consorts with the devil, she must be a witch. I'd definitely be a witch because I love to read and like probably say things that I shouldn't, and like stand up to men and things, and those are behaviors that you shouldn't engage in Puritan era America. But sometimes they would just make stuff up. They would be like, oh, I saw Goody Proctor in the woods with the devil. And it's like, well, what were you doing in the woods with the devil if you saw her with the devil? Like, this doesn't really pan out. So the whole thing was just like such a sham. But yes, Alexis is right. They're like, one of the theories that is very likely is that there was this poison, like a hallucinogen, actually, I think, in the bread, and people were getting poisoned and going crazy. But there's like that way of finding out who's a witch is obviously not foolproof. It makes me think of gosh, if y'all were all here, we could watch the clip, but I don't think there would there'd be like an easy way to watch it here. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Are y'all familiar with that movie at all? It's so funny. There's this, it like takes place in like medieval times, and they talk about this one woman possibly being a witch, and they kind of reason out that how do they even come up with the theory that if she weighs as much as a duck, that she must be a witch, because ducks float, and like I don't remember the logic behind it all, but like wood floats, ducks float. If she weighs the same as a duck, then she must be made of wood, and witches are made of wood. Like, it's so stupid, and it's meant to be stupid and funny, but like that's kind of how stupid the logic was behind figuring out who was a witch and who wasn't back in the day. But we'll see what some of that looks like and how horrible they were, just like deciding kind of just not really giving people a chance to defend themselves. Like if it was decided that you were a witch, then you just were, and there wasn't a whole lot you could do, because it was essentially like, if you say that you are a witch, then you've confessed and we have to hang you. But if you deny being a witch, then you're lying, and you're a witch and a liar, and we're probably still gonna hang you. So it's just a lose-lose, however you look at it.
I'm not gonna lie. These people like, oh, we had to get rid of witches. Why? You could have used them. You can use magic. Teach us.
That's a good
More
way
sense.
of looking at it. Like, why didn't they kind of embrace it? It was not the world then that it is now. And, you know,
I'd love to see a bunch of witches.
Puritans, they were very like, God is the only way, and like if witches are against God. So
No, you can literally say like, can we contact God? Can we contact the souls? We can ask many questions. Why not these people thought like, hey, we can use this?
yeah, it just, that was so against what they believed. They just,
So what?
I mean, their beliefs were everything to them. This was such a purely religious community, and not, you know, not the kind of, I feel like there's some people now that are like, religion is their whole life, but also like most religious people can like get along with others now. Like it's okay if you don't believe the same thing that other people do. Back then it was not okay. Like if you didn't believe the same thing that they did, you were definitely going to hell, and you were probably a witch.
I'm still saying.
Maybe you were like in connection with the devil. So
Oh, if they can contact the devil, can they do that and vice versa? Literally, no, you guys thought, like, wait, if these witches can contact the devil, we can contact God. Like, come on, think about it. If witches exist, you can show us. If we have to use sacrifices, can we use cattles as a substitute? Anything, come on.
I guess that's true. I guess the idea would be that like they wouldn't want to contact God. Like they would be like turned away from God and not want anything to do with them, because these are like heathens, essentially.
Like, I really wish I was with them at that time, saying, well, oh, wait, these are witches. They have magic. They can contact God and the devil. Why are we burning them? Should we keep them like a treasure and learn it?
I mean, that's a very progressive attitude, and I get it. But they were not a progressive people.
Wait, and one more thing. If they're witches, how did you even catch them?
How did you catch them?
Like, how did you guys even caught them? That's my question. How? If they can use magic, contact the devil, how the heck did we even got them?
Well, it's an interesting question, because they did sometimes think that witches could like put their spirits out of themselves and like into a bird or a cat or something, like a familiar spirit. And you know, I suppose that you raise a good question, because if I were a witch and I was worried about getting caught, I probably would friggin' send my spirit out into like a little fox or something and have him scamper off into the woods so he couldn't be caught. But then, you know, I don't know what happens to your body if you send your witch spirit out into a familiar. I'm not well versed in the ways of witchcraft, unfortunately.
No, I'm just questioning because, like, hold on, there gotta be logic. Because, like, okay, magic, I hate it. Different rules. But logic still applies. How the heck do you even catch them? And how the heck you even burnt them? Like, how? If they supposed to be some magical being, how the heck you even caught them in the first place and killed them?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point, because you would think that it would occur to them, like, if they were witches, wouldn't they use their powers to escape? And they're not. These people are consistently maintaining maintaining that they are innocent. And if you were really a witch, why wouldn't you just admit it and then, like, I don't know, fly off in a puff of smoke or something?
Well, I don't know.
No one ever did. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, they weren't really witches. They were just people who were, like, getting accused of something that was
There
terrible.
is one time witches existed, and they just said, like, no, we're not dealing with this. I would love to see that, because I'm like, hold up. If you guys can use magic, why don't we just won't use that? Teach us magic, teach us the way of God. We have something going. But no, these idiots say, like, oh, let's just burn them. You idiots! It's like,
If I
go.
was a witch back then, I would definitely pretend not to be, and, like, probably get close to the lawmakers and, like, participate in accusing everyone else, which is horrible.
Screw that.
Like, you want to keep yourself safe, right?
Yeah, but screw that. I'm teaching them, oh, human beings, cool beings. We understand, but if I was a person that met a witch, I'm going to ask that simple question. Can you teach me? Like, hey, I will respect whatever rules you guys got, but just teach me, you can use healing. You can use different herbs. Come on. No one see the money here.
No one did. No one did. They just saw the sin in it. Yeah.
I do not like Puritans. Those guys were just idiots about that. They had money in the palm of their hands.
Okay. That too.
Oh,
That
hi,
too.
we have a visitor. And it's Kat, and she says the purpose of the witch trials was so women couldn't be educated or independent. I mean, that had a lot to do with it. I mean, yet again, it wasn't just women being accused of witchcraft. It wasn't even just young women. But yes, like I said, I would definitely be accused of being a witch because I'm educated and independent, and those things didn't fly back in the day. And if you showed signs of that, I mean, like I mentioned, if you were seen reading a book that was not the Bible, that was grounds to be accused of witchcraft. And, you know, if women are going around reading, especially women, but, like, you know, why should you need to read anything but the Bible? What's the point? Isn't that all we need in Puritan America? Sure it is. Sure it is. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to look at an illustration, an image, and kind of draw some predictions from it, because over the first couple of days while we start reading the book, we're going to work on making some predictions about what's going to happen in the book and with our characters. So what I want to start out with is just some prediction making skills. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Well, in 1 second, let me get this thing up. Crucible, where are you at? No. Here we go. Okay, so I'd love to just zoom in to this guy. All right, share my screen here. Now I want you guys to look at this image that we have up here. First of all, just kind of blanket question here. What do you think is going on in this picture before we look at it too closely?
Accusations.
Accusations of some sort. Who's doing the accusing?
The townsman. The townsman.
Okay. Like these,
Yeah, them.
like in front.
They're like, oh, safety and no witches. That's what they're like. That's exactly what they said, how they said it.
In response to the chat, I'm not going to say that no straight white men were affected, though. We were actually just talking about the fact that the most notable person who got pressed to death was Giles Corey, who was an elderly straight white man. Of course, should we be picking on the elderly? Probably not. Also, did you guys know that Miss Starling is related to one of the most famous people who got accused of being a witch?
That makes a lot of sense now.
I know, right? Her name was Rebecca Nurse. And I was like, are you named after her? She was like, well, no, but we're related. Darling would be a witch, for sure. Okay, so what are some things that you see in this picture? As you look at it a little bit more closely, what are things that you notice going on?
Really quick, Miss McClellan, I think we should watch Paranorman just because it has everything to do with witch trials.
Paranormal.
Oh my God, this freaking chair. I gotta get a new chair. I can't live with this. I've seen that movie one time, but it was
It's
like
so good.
10 years ago. I don't remember it really at all.
I think it's like PG or like PG-13. Either way, I think we're all old enough to watch it. Okay, it's really funny. Has everything to do with the witch trials. Okay, they're in like Oregon or something. I don't know, some goofy town. It's about a witch. You know, I think we should watch it. It's good and it's worth it and pertains to the lesson.
My question is, how would we watch movies? Because I want to at some point. And I don't know what's the way to make that happen.
Screen share it.
I feel like the audio is always kind of funky.
You use your computer audio. You have to get Mr. Mike to do the thingy with the thing.
The thingy with the thing?
So he has to, so when you screen share your thing, you hit connect with computer audio, and then a staff password would have to be entered in order for you to use it. But
okay, I'll look into that. It's been a couple of years since I have taught English 3 or, well, American Lit, but I did like watching the movie of The Crucible. I like the movie anyway. I think it's pretty good. And also Winona Ryder's in it, and I love her. And Daniel Day-Lewis, and I love him. And there's only like 2 parts that I have to cover up so you guys can't see stuff. But, you know, it might be nice to watch that. I don't know. I'll think about it. Back to the question, what are some things you see and notice going on in this picture?
A lot of people are gathered around this one woman.
Yeah, what's she doing?
Pleading, or I don't know, it look like pleading to somebody or just laying on the ground.
Yeah, she does look like maybe she's pleading. She's got her arm out, so something's going on. She's not just fainted. Something's going on with her.
you know, they probably, because, you know, they like to abuse people back then, they probably shoved her to the ground.
Possibly.
It was like, you a bad witch. And she was like, oh no. And they're like, yes. So
Get down on the ground, witch. Okay, so if we put ourselves in this scene, what do you think would be going on? What do you think you would hear going on in this scene?
she's a witch. My animals have been dying for no reason. And it's not because of the moldy bread, I swear. Like, that's what I think. Yeah.
That's fair.
Right? Yeah.
Also,
Maybe.
if I was in there, I think I would hear something like, Your Honor, you see this witch. She's been destroying our cattle, our fields, our women and children. Do you not see this witch? Am I the only man that sees? And just pleading his case.
We all know what was happening. They saw a little girl. She was doing some weird things, and they was like, "Oop, I guess we got to convict you now because you shouldn't have been doing what you was doing." And she was like, "No," and they was like, "Shut up," and then they pushed her. That's what happened.
Probably so. And that weird thing she was doing could have been like frolicking in a field with no shoes on. And they were like,
Yeah.
why are you exhibiting joy and not wearing shoes? That's not okay. That's not the Puritan way. You're a witch. I also, like, this is totally unrelated, but I noticed this guy, well, ooh, I don't know if you can see where my mouse is going, but the one like behind this guy facing the screen, he looks like Nosferatu. Like, I don't know what his deal is, but
How come everybody else has hair, but you don't? Shouldn't you be convicted? That's weird, right?
creepy. He's definitely a vampire.
Yeah. Y'all looking at the wrong things.
Witches. Like, should he be worried about vampires? I don't know. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so where do you think this is going on? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the world do you think this is going on? When do you think it's occurring? And how do you know?
So I think this is going on in some little sleepy town. I'll say up in the north. Specifically, wait, hold on. I gotta draw out my states. Hold on. Somewhere in the north.
Okay.
And it's happening in the middle of town, and that the courthouse, because normally those things would be placed in the middle of town because that's where they were placing them back then. They placed them in the middle of town, in the middle of everything, blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's happening there. And they're all there. They call it a town's meeting, and they're like, we found another one. Ooh, found another one. Ooh. And so then the judge was like, okay, give me a second. And then he rolled up, and they're like, okay, plead your case. And they're like, this girl did this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And the girl was like, no, I didn't. And then she tried to come up towards the stand, and they pushed her back. So now she's on the ground because she was just pushed back on the ground by everybody else.
Dang, you got like a whole narrative going on. I like it. Also, totally unrelated, but I love it when people say this, that, and the third. That's one of my favorite like little phrases that I don't know why I don't say it because I like it so much, but I just like that. I just think it sounds so cute. This, that, and the third. Okay, what message would you say is trying to be conveyed in this image? It wouldn't be a piece of art if it weren't trying to say something. So what do you think it's trying to tell us?
That little girl did it, or whatever she did.
Mm.
And they're convicting her because they just know that she did whatever she did. Right?
I mean, maybe. We don't know her. Should she even?
I don't know her story. What am I talking about? I don't know anything about this girl. Let me stop.
I mean, when I look at this, it definitely seems to be less about her specifically than like the reactions of everyone. I feel like the reactions are a bigger part of the picture than whatever is going on with her. I wish I knew. Never mind.
No. Say what you were going to say, Miss McCullough. Don't do that to people.
I will in a second. I will tell you what I was going to say in just a second. What questions does this kind of raise for us about what's going on?
Why a little kid? Why her?
She is very young. That's not anything that really stuck out to me the first time I saw it.
Well, no. Don't forget, the pyramid said, like, hey, if you're a witch, we don't care if you're old, young, we'll kill you on the spot. Don't forget about that part.
Well, they didn't kill her on the spot. They had to have a trial first.
Sorry, trial, then kill you on the spot.
But it was a rigged trial. So if you float, if you
Still
don't
wondering
float,
where that logic.
I mean, it seems pretty reasonable to me. Like, then we'll just know that you weren't a witch, or we'll just know that you are a witch. Oh well, like that seems right, right?
I'm still mad. These dummies think like, oh, witches exist. Use them.
But they do exist? Question mark.
If they do, I'll use them. Well, I won't be one of them.
LeBron.
Yes.
You gotta remember. These people they weren't as forward thinkers as we were. They wouldn't just be automatically like, oh, let's use the witches to do blah, blah, blah. They weren't doing that. They could never do that because it was such a quote unquote pure world that they just did not think of using that to talk to God. They were only thinking about the negatives and how it would affect them in later life. They just weren't automatically going to sit there and be like, let's use the witches. Like, that's not what they were thinking. They would never
I'm
think
just
that.
mad over that. If I was in this situation, how you deal with a witch?
If I was in their situation, how would I deal with it?
Yeah, how you deal with
I'd
it?
probably convict her of being a witch as well, because that's what the mindset was. That's what the mindset was. Even if I was me back then, I would still convict her because that's the life that we would have to live. I wouldn't just be like, oh, well, maybe let's think about, no, I would have to convict her because, number one, if I were to defend her, I would also be considered a witch as well. So you also have to think about that. And my life would also be put on
Puritans.
so I would go along with the crowd, even if I didn't know she was innocent.
No, because these Puritans share the whole belief in the belief that you follow the Ten Commandments, you follow the path of God. Killing is not the path of God.
Yeah, but if you do it in the eyes of God, it is.
Yeah, we kind of started getting off on that the other day, and I mean that's kind of still a debate that goes on that, boy, I just don't think there's an answer to. Like, there are plenty of religious people even now who like believe in the death penalty, and I'm not trying to tell anybody what to believe, but I think that's a hard thing to kind of reconcile with yourself, because if you believe in God and you believe that killing is wrong, which is literally in the Ten Commandments, then it does kind of contradictory.
That's answering the actual question. They want to know how many.
Okay to kill someone.
So he has
they've killed someone else. They've done something wrong.
$10 bills.
But I mean, that was kind of what was going on back then too. Like, is it okay to take someone's life in the name of God? Well, apparently they thought so.
He has 20.
And these guys, I'm more mad at because, like, you people say killing is wrong. I understand there's necessary killing. But all in all, you're supposed to be holy and keep your religious values. Like, hey, we will not kill you. We'll only kill you in self-defense.
You remember that document that we read? They had the fear tactic going on as well. So if you applied that logic to this situation, then you would understand where they were coming from. Like, they were fearing that somebody that goes against God is going to take them all down with them. That's what they were being afraid of.
Exactly. I mean, religion is really what ruled this community. And, it's a very hard, staunch, rigid religion. It's not, most religious people nowadays are not this rigid. Like, you can get along with people who believe different things than you do. You don't necessarily condemn everyone else to hell. But back then, in the Puritan community, there wasn't anyone else who didn't believe what you believed. And if you suspected that they might believe something different than what you believed, then they were a sinner and they were probably a witch. And this is what happened to them. Which is kind of funny, not funny, haha, but ironic funny, considering that one of the main reasons we left England, as we know from our notes, was for religious freedom. But then we came here and we're like, well, we want religious freedom, but really what we want was to do religion our way. But we'd like for everyone to do it our way.
Right.
Boy, I think that's still really relevant. That's just me. What I was going to say and stopped myself was, I wish I knew the title to this piece of art. But then my last question for it is, how would you title or caption this? You can give it a title like a piece of art or caption it like it's a post on Instagram or whatever.